There's a lot going on in this case. There's some high drama. It's day 2 of the trial, and the state prosecutors come forward with some call logs. And they are saying that these call logs place the defendant's roommate outside of the apartment at the time of the assault. Now, this is a really important detail. The attorneys for the state are not able to get these call logs admitted into evidence.
Why?
What that means is that the jury is not going to get to see this evidence, kind of form their own opinion of this evidence as the trial is proceeding. But the state prosecutors are referring to this evidence during cross-examination, during closing arguments, so the jury is sitting there listening and hearing about it, but they're not seeing it. Okay? So ultimately, the jury goes back in, they deliberate, they come back out, they have a guilty verdict. The defendant says, hold up, this is a violation of due process under the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, and under the Texas Constitution, this is a violation of my due process rights. So they send it up on appeal. This goes to the Court of Appeals, where the Court of Appeals applies a 2-part test. So the 2-part test, the first part is this testimony actually false? And everyone, you would think that would be very clear what that means. In this case, false means taken as a whole, is it likely to cause the jury to come to the wrong conclusion, an incorrect conclusion? The second part of the test is whether or not this testimony is material to the case. And what that means is there a reasonable likelihood that when the jury hears this testimony, they are going to consider that testimony, they're going to think about it, talk about it as they're deliberating and coming up with the verdict. So in this case, the appeals court takes a look at this, they look at the record, and they ultimately decide that the way that the prosecutors were using this evidence, referring to it during cross-examination and closing argument, probably did give the jury a false impression of what that evidence meant. Again, the prosecutors are trying very hard to argue that the roommate was not present, the roommate saying that he was, and ultimately, because that evidence was so important to the case, the Court of Appeals says, look, this is a violation of due process, got to send it back and retry the case.